All right, hey guys, let's talk about the Terminal List. So this is another TV series that came out actually quite a few months ago. I only watched it recently though. So yeah, it appears it came out in July. Wait, so it's not that long ago. It feels like forever, but yeah, anyway, it's almost September. So yeah, it does feel like it came out 2 months ago because it was early July. Um, so this TV series feels like just some recycled story garbage. Honestly, it's nothing really new. It's the usual agent has to find out some bad guy, and then his what do you call this, boss doesn't trust him, and the twist is the boss is the villain. But in this case, every one of his bosses are the villain. Like, there's so many bad guys in the U.S. Army, it's really hard to believe. Just how hilarious the story actually is when you think about it. Like, the way they're showing is that all the elites who are leading the special forces in the army are apparently all corrupted, every one of them, and only this commander, James Reese, apparently is the only good guy. So yeah, I don't know. It's a little bit of a long stretch, but story-wise, it's nothing really too exclusive. So he ends up in a situation where his family gets murdered because people are coming to kill him. And the real story is that he is leading a team of covert operatives to go to perform a covert mission somewhere overseas. Turns out that there was some kind of a corporate sabotage. They were ambushed, and almost all of them died. Only he and two other friends survived. But after them survive, after they come back from the battle and whatever. James Reese is suffering a concussion. James Reese is played by Chris Pratt, and two of his other buddies. Turns out one of them actually gets murdered in his house. The case is closed as suicide, and James Reese is having difficulty with his memory because of the impact, sort of the concussion that he suffered from the impact of a grenade blast, or some kind of trip mine actually, in the tunnels where they were doing this covert operation. So he doesn't believe that his friend died of suicide. Like every other suicide story, there's got to be some twist. There's got to be murder instead. So that happens. And then his other friend also goes missing. And so he does his own investigation. There's this Katie Buranek, played by Constance Wu, and she's like some investigative reporter who tries to help him, to get his story, his side of the story, and whatever. And so he takes matters into his own hands. The only buddy he really has to help him is Taylor Kish. I'm not sure I'm butchering this name, who plays Ben Edwards. This guy is a really good actor. I really liked him from a lot of other films. I think John Carter in particular was a film that I really like because I've like read about it way before the film even came out. So that was really nice from him. But anyway, he's the only other buddy that he can sort of rely on. And so he goes on some sort of revenge story and just kills all the people. He has this list that he makes, which is the terminal list. And he kills all of them because, there's some people who killed his family, and he has to take on all the corporate seniors, all the elites who are in charge of this secret. And turns out the secret is that they were actually developing a type of drug to test on these special force agents, and it allows them to perform better on the field, allows them to last, to have better stamina, to last longer without food, to perform better under pressure, under stress, and all of these things. But as a result of the side effect of the drug, all of the people who are part of that, covert team, all suffer brain tumors. So that means that Chris Pratt is eventually going to die of a brain tumor as well. So they decided, let's let them just die off in a mission rather than die from the actual cancer, and then it would expose the government for testing drugs that cause cancer to their soldiers. So they expected them to just die on the field. Instead, what happens is James Reese doesn't die, and so he comes back to try to kill every one of them before he eventually, before he knows that he would succumb to cancer. And so, yeah, that's basically the core of the twist. And turns out what happens is everyone is evil, literally everyone. All of his bosses are evil. The reporter and him are the only ones who are actually, sort of the really good people. And the buddy who helps him out, Ben Edwards, who helps him out throughout the story, turns out he was one of the people who were also in it as well. But he actually helps him. He actually turns out to be a person who really wants James Reese to take revenge because he realizes just how bad the situation has become. But towards the very end, he does get exposed by James Reese, and he's the last one to get shot. And so James Reese actually survives all of it. He is eventually going to succumb to his tumor, I believe. But the story ends with him riding off on like a sailboat or motorboat or whatever, cruise sort of into the sunset, and that's pretty much how the story ends. This is basically the Punisher story with some sort of an ending. So I rated this very, very bad because the story and the writing and the dialogues are just really, really poor in this. There's really nothing that exciting, nothing that intelligent. There's no battle sequence or fight sequence that you're going to think like, oh, this is revolutionary. There's nothing that keeps up to the likes of anything close to what has recently been, shown, like John Wick, or what other recent? There was a recent action sequence that came out of some kind of a fighting movie. There's actually one that I got to review. I got to show you guys. It's like this fighting movie. It's an Asian film, but it has really good fight sequences. Some sort of martial arts film. So this thing didn't really showcase anything very interesting. Even the gunfights, all of those were very basic. It's just Chris Pratt walking in, killing people. Um, he uses some interrogation methods on some people to figure out certain things, but nothing all too exciting. I think the best action sequence in this entire series, considering how many action sequences it actually has, I feel the best one probably was the one where he sort of ambushes this sort of like, I don't know, battlefield kind of area where he takes on a bunch of soldiers together with James Reese and Ben Edwards. They sort of go together to fight a bunch of soldiers in this area. And what do you call this? Ben Edwards gets shot, but he's fine. There are a lot of people getting shot in this, between James and Ben, but they're all absolutely fine somehow. And the bad guys always somehow just get it. There's really nothing too exciting here, and nothing too special that happens. All of the other side characters are very basic. Sure, all the Hartley and all these people are villains, but there's nothing too enticing about them. I'm really not sure what this 8.0 rating is all about. But honestly, maybe if people don't know about stories like this kind of um, story with a twist where the boss is the bad person, and you gotta go up against your boss and go up against the entire military. Sorry, I hit the mic. And you gotta, it's basically Punisher story, right? It's nothing too exciting, too interesting. And the action sequence is the basic. So anyway, that's about it from me. I really don't want to go too much into this because it's not too enjoyable for me. It is what it is. Take it as how you will. If you really did enjoy it, well then I'm glad for you. But probably, if this was, the first of its kind, I would probably rate this a lot higher. But it's not. This is a recycled garbage that's just gone through so many times over the course of what, like 30, 40 years of making this military covert operation goes wrong. Turns out all the leads, the ones who are in charge of the mission are the ones who are actually evil. So the agent has to take revenge by killing everyone in charge. This is a story that was written before any of us were born. Any of us. All right. So on to the next one. An actually good TV series, The Sandman. Now I know what you're thinking. You rated it a 4. And yeah, Terminus is a 3, by the way. The Sandman, yes, I did rate it a 4, but hear me out. It's good. It's good, but it could have been so much better. It honestly feels like they ran out of budget after the very first episode, because the way the first episode looked compared to the rest of the season was just off. The first episode for me was hands down the best episode. And story-wise, there's a few other better episodes. Probably the one where Morpheus, the Sandman, basically goes to visit this guy in like this bar that they meet once every 100 years. That was a pretty good story. There was also an interesting story where what do you call this? David Thewlis's John D sort of controls an entire bar and forces everyone. It's like a not a bar, sorry, it's a cafe where he controls everyone in the cafe to have sex with each other, and then everyone dies. That's also a pretty interesting episode. But other than those, mainly, this thing is a very story-driven story. There's not many very good quality CGI. CGI in this is generally bad. There's also certain sequences where it's just not as interesting as it could have been. Like I thought Sandman's battle with what do you call this? In this case, they don't call her Lucifer. They call her Morning Star, right? Like it's basically the devil, right? It's basically the devil. It's played by the lady from Game of Thrones. This one is played by this person from Game of Thrones. So she plays like one of the devil, and one of the battle sequences I felt was extremely underwhelming. And yes, this is not an entirely new story. The Sandman is based on the DC Comics Sandman. So I sort of know about the story, but for those who don't, probably this was something a lot more interesting, a lot more um, new to them, I guess. But otherwise, it's an already existing story. So taking that story, I expected something a little more, something bit of a twist, and I expected there to be a lot more interesting, dream sequences, CGI, magic, these sorts of things. But it really falls short. The first episode was probably the best, honestly, as I said, and I think it really goes downhill from there. As for the performances of the actors, Tom Sturridge does so well as the Sandman, Dream, Morpheus. He has so many names, and it's so cool. It's that there's this such an ethereal being, this mythical creature, this otherworldly force. That is one of the endless, right? Basically. And so the Corinthian, played by Boyd Holbrook, was also pretty interesting. I felt that he's just a great actor, and so he pulls it off really well. As for the rest of them, they were extremely underwhelming. Vivian as Lucienne was okay. She just does her job decently well. David Thewlis is too good of an actor to be along this cast. Honestly, I'm sorry. I don't know if you guys think that he's not that good at what, but for me, I feel that he's just too good of an actor to be alongside this cast. And so the scenes that he is in, he absolutely nails it. He's just too good. He's way too good, and you can see it from the get-go. And once Rose Walker's story sort of comes in, yes, it is the way the comics go, but I feel that it was taken in such an underwhelming fashion that it feels too much like you're missing Dream and his stories, and it shouldn't be that way. Rose Walker, by all means, I think the actress did the best job she could. And, the scenes really go, all in her favor in the sense where she's starting to be this problem that Dream has to handle. And I felt that they could have done it better to show her a little bit more emotionally driven, because they don't really have the CGI or the action to back it up, right? So they could have probably taken it a little bit more emotionally driven, but they didn't really do a very good job with that. It wasn't like you're feeling like, oh, I feel bad for her, or maybe this girl is the last hope. Like, go, go, go. No one is actually rooting for her. No one is actually, like, at least I feel that it's not too interesting of a story, and you start to miss Dream beyond episode 6 because it goes very much to Rose Walker's story, and Dream is only there more so as a side character in the story that's literally called the Sandman, right? But as for the first, I think 1 to 6, is it? Wait, let me see. Is it episode 6 the one where he actually um oh right, okay, so 6 is where he meets with Death. And yeah, that's also pretty decent. Episode 6 is also pretty cool. So I think episode 1 to 6 are actually the good ones. And yeah, yeah, episode 1 to 6 are actually the good ones. So beyond that, I feel is where it literally takes a bit of a tumble. So let me just see whether this is in what sequence is this in actually? Lost Hearts. Sleep of the Just. So that's the first one. The second one, yes, was a little bit slow. The pickup was a little underwhelming. I felt that the third one was already interesting and starting to pick up. It was pretty good. I did not like A Hope in Hell. Um, I did not like it. It was okay, but it wasn't that interesting. I think 24/7. John settles in a diner to watch the people around him. Yeah, this was pretty interesting. The one where John is controlling this diner. This is a very interesting episode. Um, and The Sound of Her Wings is where he meets Death. This is a good episode as well. Wait, is this not in order? Why do I feel like this is not in order or something like that? It's so strange. Um, yeah, maybe my memory of it is a little bit off. But yeah, these were pretty good. Episode 7 is about Rose Walker's story. Not that, yeah, all these is where it gets really underwhelming. Yeah, it gets really underwhelming beyond this. Um, but it's 24/7, like, yeah, this is where like John is doing his thing in the bar, right? The sound of her wings is where he meets death. Is this also the one where he meets up with that guy in the bar every 100 years? I can't remember if it's the same episode, but that one is actually pretty good. But beyond this, all of these I felt were pretty underwhelming. The last one was interesting because there's the final reveal and the twist, and sort of the conclusion to the entire series, so that was pretty good. But yeah, overall, my opinion is that the writing and the dialogues are pretty decent, but the music and the emotions are not very strong. And I feel that they could have gone for a more emotionally driven story, knowing that, they probably lost the budget after the first few episodes because honestly, there was not much magic or graphics or any of the interesting dream sequences that we would expect from a Sandman comic or story for that matter. Because we get it. In the comic books, that's what they could draw, and they were limited by that ability. But when you're making it into a film, you can do so much more because you can actually show those sequences brought to life, And even if it lacked in terms of action in the comics, you can bring that, to reality in the story, especially when you have characters like Constantine. And the interesting thing about this Sandman series is that they replaced John Constantine with Joanna Constantine. And I think Joanna is like what John's daughter or something like that. But yeah, John gets replaced by Joanna, and Joanna is the one that's the Constantine of this show, which is fine, whatever. I mean, it doesn't make a difference. She functions the same way. Though I believe John would have been a more interesting character because he just was in the comics a more interesting character overall. And John Constantine in DC is like overall just a huge and important character. But I think they did a decent job with what they were capable of. But I really hope that they don't expect much from making spin-offs like this. What, a cat's cartoon? Like seriously, guys? Like focus on the story that you have. Take it to the next level. Show some interesting fight sequences between dream and the nightmares that he's trying to capture. Because the way the first episode ended, there's this Minecraft meme, I'm sure, where he says, like, I've built this world once, Lucien. I can build it again. That's totally a Minecraft meme, right? But the way the first episode ends, he says that he's trying to go and capture the nightmares and the dreams that have left his kingdom. And he basically is spending the entire season looking for the Corinthian. And then I think there's two more nightmares, right? Yeah, there's two more nightmares. But I feel like it was a missed opportunity in the sense that they had such a long season and they had, some very good episodes, and the rest of it was just so underwhelming in comparison. And a lot of these like weird leprechaun-ish characters really did not do a good job. Yeah, but that's just my opinion once again. If you guys did enjoy it, I'm glad for you. But honestly, The Sandman really falls short in terms of being an overall great show. Yeah, I think the budget was really limiting, but nonetheless, it was a good attempt by Netflix, and there is so much hope for this. I expect season two and maybe even a season three if they can keep this going, and perhaps the ratings will probably go to five, six, seven, maybe even an eight, making this something close to the likes of Game of Thrones, if there ever is that possibility. Because if you compare this series now to something like Game of Thrones is twice the series, right? Which is why I can't give this any more than a 4. I would have liked to give it a 5 to say that this was average. This is good. 5 for me is good. But I don't think this falls in the good category. This is not that good of a show. This is okay. It's decent. You can watch it. Not everyone is going to like it. It's not that exciting. Um, yeah. But anyway, it is what it is. If you ask me, like, oh, then what do you think is a great TV series? Sure, let me show you. I'm glad I have my list right now to actually pull it out. and show you guys. Let's see. Can I filter by TV series? I don't think I can. But I think I can just sort it by top rated and show you guys what TV series that I have. Um, let's see. Tom and Jerry, greatest in the world, right? Naruto, Steins Gate, excellent. TV series. Game of Thrones, brilliant. Let's see. Future Diary, really good. Dragon Ball Z, of course. X-Men animated series. Uh, like Hunter x Hunter, Arcane. Let's see what else. Um, come on. Batman animated series, Spider-Man animated. These are just all too good in comparison. What other TV series do we have? Yeah, but anyway, you get my point, right? There's just so many better TV series out there in comparison that I really can't rate this too high. Although I'm sure I've missed out rating so many other TV friends. Um, you know, actually, How I Met Your Mother needs to be in this list. I have not rated it. But yeah, there's just so many other better TV series out there. There's so much more entertaining, and it would be I'd rather watch that sort of thought. And that's what I felt bad for. Because honestly, when I watched the first episode of Sandman, I was super excited, and I was like, please, keep getting better. But it just did not get any better. Um, but yeah, it is what it is. Anyway, I'm just gonna cut it off there and say I would like to see more from Sandman. I really wish it does better. Um, and I think it has the potential. Like, if I were to rate just episode one, I think it would be a 6 out of 10. It doesn't have the greatest budget in the world, not the greatest dialogue, not the most interesting, but it's definitely a good episode. And if it was anything like a 7 or 8, right, we're talking like movie quality straight up. And it isn't that. And yeah, that's it for me for this. Um, there's a few more that I do have to cover, and I will be back for those. See you guys in the next one. Take care.